listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Meghan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast. I'm your host, Meghan Donnelly, and this is the podcast where we talk about operations, systems, processes, and why technology is really only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Now, today is really exciting because Evan Marks is someone who, what we were just talking about, number 13 in brand built. So yes, another brand built person, but I'll tell you, Evan is doing something really cool. He is the owner and founder of M1 Performance, and he is an executive. I say executive leadership coach. I think that there's so much more that he does, and I can't wait for him to share it with you. But he's an ex-Wall Street guy, and now he's working on something that we like to talk about, and that's the mindset of how you work and your health and wellness, right? And I can't even explain it. Evan, I'm going to have you explain exactly what you guys are working on and how your process works, because I think it's fascinating that you're able to get into that leadership space and help these people, help executives deal with their mindset and deal with their health and wellness, right? The biggest system of all, your mind, your health and wellness. And people forget that they're hustling, they're hustle culture and all of that stuff that's out there right now. And you're kind of coming in and just like slicing it and say, okay, like ignore all this crap. Like this is not going to help you if you continue to go down this path. So tell everybody where you're calling from and what M1 Performance is all about.
So my name is Evan Marks. I'm the founder and I'm a mental performance coach at M1 Performance Group. I currently reside in New Jersey, but I am a New Yorker through and through.
Can you tell? Can you hear it?
A little bit comes out. A lot of it comes out. But you know what's interesting? Like, you're the queen of automation, but what we do is actually, we do automation too, but we do a different sort of operating system. And that operating system consists of the mind. And where we find it's important, where emotions are data, we use conscious behavior to create new experiences, which neurologically start to create new circle networks in the brain. So we look at it not as technology, but what is the holistic approach that we can actually change behavior that creates new experiences that actually fulfills the potential you're trying to accomplish. And then that's kind of the basis. We have a very simple formula at M1. Performance equals potential minus interferences. So we believe that a lot of us are pre-programmed in a certain way, which is the psychoanalytical side of our business. But the neurological side is that we can actually reprogram our brains through neuroplasticity to actually achieve what we're trying to accomplish. So this is not, we don't live in the world of positive psychology. We live in the world of science and what's actually possible. So we like to say we're opportunistically realistic. That's our approach, and that's how we look at things. But it's interesting. Like when we look at people and possibilities, we always want to start with, where do they come from? Like, how were you programmed? What is your narrative? What is your story? And then from there, we start to really build this mental foundation of who you are and what is possible. And the great thing about building mental foundations is that you can leverage it. So this is not one of these things where, fake it till you make it or whatever that is. It's really doing this intrinsic work, understanding who you are and what is possible for you. So it's a very intimate relationship that I have with clients, but it's one that, it's not a Band-Aid approach. This is for sustainable longevity and to build great leverage. And that's what, at M1, that's what we do. It gets a little more complicated than that, obviously,
right?
But that's what we do, though. So we're in the game of mental performance, and we do believe that people are limitless. It's just, there's a structure that you have to go about in order to create these foundations.
You want to know why I love this approach so much? I mean, when you think about your body and your health and your brain and your mind and all of the parts and pieces that make you up as a human, it's all science, right? Like a doctor, like a brain surgeon, if they were to have to operate, like they have to use science in math, and like you only can cut like a quarter, like if they're doing like physical surgery, like there are scientific actual numbers and math involved So it's amazing that somebody has finally come up with, oh, well, it's just math and numbers and data. So I would love to know, do you actually use, and I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Do you actually have like spreadsheets and like calculations where they have to do X amount of things a day to kind of get, and I know you know, obviously don't give away your entire secret sauce, but I would imagine there's reps that you have to put in. Like, what do they say? It's, what is it, 7 days or 14 days to perform a habit? What's that? And I'm trying to remember the book now that I've read it so many times.
We don't, it's our philosophy is the marriage between why and how. Why do we do the things we do repetitively that no longer serve us, and how do we actually change behavior? So
Okay.
whether it's 21 days to build a habit, I really don't concentrate on that. So we believe time can be an ally. So why is time an ally? Well, if we can stack days, weeks, and months, time becomes an ally, right? If we're committed to change and behavioral change and improvement. But unfortunately, the other side is true also. If we stay the same, time no longer works for us, right? We're not getting better. So
Right.
whether it's 21 days, 7 days, I really don't pay attention to that, to be quite honest. We believe in, you have to slow down in order to speed up. And slowing down has nothing to do with gas. We're still going
Yep.
full steam ahead, but slowing down is actually the art of intentionality. If we are intentional, what we're trying to accomplish day in and day out, the process speeds up, right? And that's the ally of time. So for us, it's really understanding what we're trying to accomplish and what are the proper steps to take us there, right? And that sounds extremely basic. But what happens is that we're in the game of best decision making, but a part of decisions are emotions. So how are we able to feel and give ourselves permission to feel whatever we want and also be able to choose best decisions? We don't know if they're right always, right? Because only time tells. But how can I give somebody the ability to create mental space in the face of any emotion,
Mhm.
choose the proper behavior that's going to really benefit you? So, we always say behavior changes before feelings. So what happens is, like, when I'm happy, I'll do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. When I'm no longer stressed, I'm going to do this. It doesn't work that way. So in the face of emotions, which are just data, by the way, how am I able to create space and to choose wisely? So when you just mentioned earlier about repetition, that's reps. So the art of intentionality is putting in reps, really. And then what
Yep.
happens eventually? So we have an emotion, fear of whatever, because nobody's fearless. We're able to give ourselves space, like, okay, what's the best decision I can make here? As opposed to that's not reacting, that's responding. Now there's a new
Yeah.
experience. Wait a second. I've felt this way, but I did this. Creates a new experience in the brain. We do that enough times, Megan, we start to build a new habit, a new behavior. So what happens over
Absolutely.
the course of repetition? That becomes our default move now. So when you used to be nervous, you used to be scared of this, you used to be fearful of judgment, embarrassment, blah, 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 whatever
Mhm.
you name it, that actually just gives you information of how you need to behave. You go through
Yep.
reps like that and it starts to change things. So then it's almost like your vision gets wider, your clarity becomes much more, the journey of clarity becomes evident, and now you start to move in the right direction.
Right.
But it's really
Right.
just building these mental models and, of things that are going to move you forward. And that's, I work with professional athletes, C-suite executives, and obviously Wall Street, because I was a Wall Street guy for a long time. The feedback loops are very different for people, but our goal is always to respond and not react. Because reacting is literally what it sounds like. It's reacting out the past, which keeps us in this familiar loop, which everybody knows about. And we always wonder, why am I not progressing? Because we keep reacting to what's familiar to us that no longer
Yeah.
serves us. Yeah,
And
it's just,
obviously, when you keep
it's
the
true.
past, right? It's old school. It's like your mom used to tell you, right? Like, if you keep rehashing the past over and over and over again, you're never going to move forward. It's done. It's over with. You can't change it now because it's already over. I
And make the
It's
past
kind of
any better.
funny.
You can't change it. Yeah.
Yes. As I'm listening to you talk and how you work with people, it's so funny. Lately, in the past few months, I've really been focusing on brain breaks. So I want to tell you about this and see, because I have a feeling that if you've listened to any of my stuff or seen it, you're gonna know what I'm saying. But you're also gonna. I have a feeling you do something very similar. So I talk with people about brain breaks. and I talk with people about slowing down, and I tell them there's such a thing as over automation, right? Like the queen of automation is sitting here telling you, we stop automating everything in your business, you're going to break it. Like it's eventually going to blow up in your face. But then I talk about mental brain breaks and being able to, like, I don't necessarily believe in work-life balance. I think it's all one life. You can't separate it. It's one life, right? You're either working on work things or you're doing personal things, but it's still one life. You can't separate it. So I talk about building your goals for your lifestyles. Like if you want to build a lifestyle that you love, that's how you need to build your goals around that. And your brain needs breaks. For me, I have really bad ADHD, right? So my daily task list, if that's what you want to call it, looks so different than everybody else's because I'll work for the Pomodoro method is what I found works, but I've kind of modified it. So I'll work for 25 minutes and I'll get up and go walk around for 10 and then I'll come back and I'll do the same thing and I repeat it 3 times and then I take an hour break. And then then I come back and I kind of do that. And I do that every single day. I've learned how to start taking meetings where I don't have to use my computer, which is rare because, hello, I'm building ops and systems, right? So I'm building tech stuff. I'll go walk outside and I'll put my headphones on and I'll take a walk even just around the block when I'm doing meetings and stuff because I just can't physically sit here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's ruining us, like sitting in front of desks like all the time and not giving your brain the expansion and the breathing room that it needs. And honestly, the less, like you were saying, the less I work, the more I get done because
It's
the time,
Yeah,
because
you're
the
right.
4 hours that I'm working, and obviously if you need to eat and you're not making enough money for food, this is probably not going to work for you. I'm sorry. But like, if you are intentional about building this lifestyle, you can get to the point where you can work 4 hours, 4 really good intentioned hours and take the rest of the day off, right? I can get more done and accomplished in 4 hours.
I agree. There's first of all, this work-life balance is quite bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It's just bullshit,
So
right?
crap.
Listen, if you could work 70% of the time, be with your family 30% and be present on both sides of the aisle, maybe that works. But what we believe is in harmony, right? Yep. There's got to be harmony in what you do, right? Where you feel that you're not missing out or whatever it may be. We try to create harmony. And what you're saying about time blocking, people can multitask, but they can't multi-focus. So what happens is when we multitask and we think we can multi-focus, there is residue in our decision making from one task to the next task. So when you think you're actually present, you're not. So we believe in mini resets throughout the day. These mini resets of resetting and recovering. Because what happens is when I deal with whether it's PMs or traders or CEOs, there's got to be moments when you give yourself mental space and mental breaks. We have to be able to clean up the residue and then do it again. And what happens is a lot of CEOs, executives, whoever it may be, I can't do that. I'm wasting time. But we don't understand is that the productivity level is significantly diminished if we're not doing this. And what happens often is there is a little bit of resistance when I work with people. And then what happens eventually, like, this works for me. I'm like, I know this works.
100%.
I said, give yourself a chance. You are not missing out. The units of productivity will skyrocket. Taking a walk for 20 minutes on a total detox, you know how much that does for you?
Yeah. A lot.
And you have to reset your brain. You have to let it relax a little bit. And what happens with a relaxed brain? Creativity flows, ideas come up, right? But it's like anything else, Meghan. Like you have to be able to experience this. Like this is all very intellectual, but put yourself in a position to experience this. Then you'll start to feel it and understand it. That's always important. Like, when we say certain things, they're very intellectual, but you have to have a moment to experience this and to feel it really, for it to really take hold. That's why reading self-help books. The first one's the same as the 900 one. The same shit. Go experience this. Go try it out. Right? There is no silver bullet.
And don't just sit there and like, you know what?
Yeah.
But what's great is people like read all these self-help books, right? Like continuous learning is obviously something that everyone should do. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to run a business, you should be continuously learning from as many people as possible, like all the great people, right? Like that's obviously highly encouraged. But don't just read and then don't do, right? Like reading is awesome. Obviously, you should read as much as possible. But if you're just going to sit there and read about it, and then you're never going to go act on it, like MVP, you need an MVP. Put something out there. Better is like, it's better to put something out there than you to wait for it to be perfect. If you wait for it to be perfect, you're never going to move forward, ever. One of the other things that
implementation. I agree.
Yeah. Right. You have to just start putting yourself out there. You have to take the leap. Are you going to fail? Sure. That's a good thing. Learn from your failure and then turn it around. Like, obviously, you don't want to.
You bring up a very good point, right? That we talk a lot about. And it's, we at Emma, we talk about emotions a lot because we think it's data. And people know fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of failure,
FOMO,
fear of
or whatever it's called.
Whatever it may be. But people don't talk about one of the most intense feelings of all, which is regret, right? Regret. But a great way to look at regret is curiosity. So curiosity is one of these skills where we obviously know curiosity is, in its essence, is information seeking. But the art of curiosity actually is door opening. However, the possibility of failure is still there, right? Yep. So we become more curious. It's almost like the intensity of that failure doesn't prohibit us from taking action. So I would always say, like, become curious, go see, what if? Maybe what we're talking about is true. Maybe there is a possibility. Go see for yourself, right? So when I work with people, because what we do is a little bit different, it is the marriage between who I am and how do I get better. This marriage, it's not positive psychology. We don't go down that road. But I always ask, be open-minded, be curious. Let's go see, right? What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is you don't do anything.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not failure, really, right? So you're not learning anything. So, we always want people being open-minded because you may be pleasantly surprised that this actually works. Yeah.
I was a horrible corporate America person because I did well in corporate, but when it got to the point where I was going to leave, and I would be curious to know about your stint on Wall Street and know like how you handled that. Because for me, I am that person. I'm always curious. I'm always learning. I'm always building. I'm always doing something new and being like, oh, I bet, what if we did this and it's going to help us do this? And what if so I'm always kind of doing this and, like continuously moving. Well, I was, the square peg in a round hole in corporate because they were like, no, stop. Like, stop creating new things. Stop coming up with new ideas. Just do the thing we asked you to do. And I was like, oh, I'm still doing that, but this is going to help us make this better and faster and stronger. And they didn't like any of that, right? Like they want you to, kind of sit there and do, right. They want you to sit there and they want you to do exactly what they want you to do and not think outside of the box at all. And I don't think there ever was a box for me. Like I've never been in the box. I'm always outside of the box. So I'd be curious because I feel like what you're doing right now is so totally different than where you came from. How did you get from there to here? Because, Wall Street is heavy. Like every person that I've talked to that it's an ex-Wall Street person is like, well, it was good for like 5 seconds. And then it was like, whoa.
I spent almost 25 years on Wall Street. But it starts before that. I was a Division I athlete. I was a lacrosse player. I played at lacrosse at University of Pennsylvania. But I had a very small career because I blew my knees out twice. And actually, my identical twin brother went there with me. And I was a student athlete, and I didn't realize at the time of how much that hurt. And I kind of put it on the shelf. But my behaviors, you could tell, were erratic sometimes because I didn't acknowledge the pain I was in. And I definitely didn't want to share it with people because I'm Evan Marks. I'm this tough guy. Inside I was melting. Everybody else is going to play ball. Here I am. Who am I? I'm just a student now. So I really lost my identity. And when I went to Wall Street, ironic, my brother went first. He got recruited by this guy named Stephen Cohen. And he's like, Ev, you got to go check this stuff out. And I never really wanted to go. but there was a lot of money being made supposedly and all this, and let me go do that. And it was one of those things where I really didn't figure myself out before I went to to the world of Wall Street. And fortunately, I had a good career. Like any career, wasn't linear, right? There were definitely obstacles, hurdles, and challenges along the way where not every year was a good year and there was some tough times. But I don't think I ever dealt with it properly until later on in my career, where I wish people talked about emotions. People talked about programming and all these things before.
Yeah.
The popular science at the time was do more work, get bigger. That's it. Emotions are nothing. Push them aside. Have ice in your veins. And it significantly impacted my career. Maybe not so much on the numbers, but there were times it was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But, I found a way to get out of it. But ironically, when I was 46, I thought I had a heart attack. And actually, it was a massive panic attack. And at that point in my career, I was all right. But I think the damage done over the course of 25 years showed up. Well, not I think, I know.
Yeah.
I wish I could say my 25 years was just nice and smooth.
Golden.
That's not being realistic, right? That's not being authentic. There were moments in time like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I taking all this stress on? What am I building here? Why am I doing this?
What's the point? Yeah.
But what's the point? I think if I had a different mental mindset and I understand the why I was the way I was and how to improve, I think my experience would have been very different. So when I work with people on Wall Street, I've gone back to school for this. I wish, and this sounds somewhat narcissistic, but I wish there were people like me then to talk to about what they're going through.
But it's true.
So I really dug deep into the science of why do we do what we do? What is happening? Obviously, nobody's life is linear, right? We all have traumas of some degree, right? We've battled with something. For me, there were rocky moments in my career, without a doubt. I used to look at my brother, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, am I good anymore? Doubt would come in. Confidence suffered, right? And then, a little drinking here just to numb the pain and all these things. I wish I had an outlet to talk about these things. Yeah. And luckily now there is. Like, we know so much more now than we did then. So as a coach, I feel like it's an obligation in a way. But I also remember my experience, Meghan, is not somebody else's experience. And that's the difference in coaching. But there are so many ways to improve and to heal and to get better. So for me, it was one of those moments. I was 46 years old. I had two daughters who were young, 4 and 2. Here I have this massive panic attack. I've had concussions growing up playing ball. I see a neurologist. He's saying, listen, the gray matter in your brain is significantly infected. You got to make a decision, kid. Like, I think you should be done. He's like, why don't you become a coach or a teacher? I said, excuse me? At 46, got a mortgage and all these things. But I was fortunate to have great coaches along the way. And this woman asked me to come coach with her. And I was fortunate enough to go back to school at 46. And my first job ever was coaching at Hendrick Motorsports, coaching their pit crew teams. That was my first job ever coaching. And awesome. I fell in love with it. And then, like anything else, like you mentioned earlier, here come more courses, psychoanalytical theory, neuroscience. And I became a student of this because I wanted to become really a student of myself.
Yep.
And that's how this all started.
Knowing yourself. It's such a cool story because it's for me. And before we end this, the last question that I have for you, now that I'm listening to you talk, because I didn't even think about it this way, because I don't necessarily see the man-woman thing, right? But as you were talking, and I was like, Wall Street, at that point in the Wall Street of this world was mostly men. And men have been programmed to not talk about their emotions. And then women, for in corporate, I was programmed to also not talk about my emotions, because if you were too emotional, they didn't, you as a woman, they didn't like that. And if you were a man and you were talking about emotions, that wasn't good either. So it's like, okay, when do we get to talk about that we're pissed off or we're happy or we're sad or we're angry or, whatever? When do we get to actually experience the emotions? And so I can't even imagine what it's like for you dealing with some of these old school men that have been in their careers for so long and it's been ingrained and shoved down their throats that they're not allowed to be emotional. They're not allowed to feel. They're not allowed. You just have to You just have to get your shit done and move forward. How often? I mean, like I don't like. It's super crappy. I think it's crappy. And
It's funny
I would
when you
love
say
to hear how you do.
yeah, if you give somebody the permission to feel, you got to remember something that I want my clients responding, not reacting. So if we don't give ourselves permission to feel, you know what happens? The emotions get on the field. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden we don't have control. So people always like, I got to control my emotions. No, you have to
No.
acknowledge your emotions and choose your behavior. That is the game right there. We all have emotions. People in a coma have emotions. Like you can't make decisions without emotions. What we're saying is how you're able to regulate your emotions and acknowledge them and actually give yourself permission to feel them is the first step. And then creating that mental space where we're not reacting or responding and choosing consciously behaviors that are advantageous to us. What a game changer that is. Now it sounds, it gets easier, but what a great place to be to know that if I am triggered and I feel an emotion, I have the ability to give myself space to make best decisions.
Yeah.
Conscious best decisions. And what is that? So when we talk about performance, like I said earlier on the podcast, performance equals potential minus interferences. Those interferences are unconscious patterns. The better we are able to bring the unconscious conscious, the world opens up.
It's just amazing to me that you're able to do this with people and I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman, because I feel like we all go through it. And that at the end of the day, we're all the same inside, underneath our skin, the mental markup, of how our bodies are supposed to work and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or a child, children are the best way to learn this because their emotions are front and center all the time. Kids under the age of 5 are so emotional.
Today if we learned how to actually label emotions growing up. Don't feel sad. What do you mean don't feel sad? Now let your children feel and let them express how they feel. Don't tell them how to feel.
Absolutely.
Because then if you do that, I'm not going to have a business there, right? Yep. I'm in business because people never gave themselves permission to feel. How crazy is that?
It's crazy.
Right? But it's true. And who would not want to be able to choose how they want to act? What the power of choice. Yep. Wow. What a wonderful thing to have in your mental arsenal. That's a great thing.
Everybody just needs to take a pause and think about that for a minute. Yeah.
Become students of themselves and also know they have the ability to choose. That's a good place to be.
It's an amazing place to be. And it's also an amazing place to wrap so I don't take up too much of your day. But I thank you so much for being here. This has been such a great conversation. And I want you to tell, as you can tell, I'm getting the back to school sickies, which is awesome. So the last few days, I was like all of the temperature, anyway, whatever, allergies and all this stuff. Tell everybody where they can find you. Because what I want for everyone to do is obviously you can find him on LinkedIn. He has great LinkedIn content. But give everybody a place, like if they want to talk to you, what's the best way for them to find you? And we'll also drop it in the show notes, like with links that they can click on and everything like that.
My team has done a great job building our website. It's m1performancegroup.com. There's tons of articles and podcasts and some great stuff on there. And there's also a discovery button. So if you feel that this can help you, please reach out. This is what I do full time for a living and I'm passionate about it. And I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And I think it's important that we all have the ability to choose. So don't discount yourself. Listen, it takes a commitment, but in order to create change that's sustainable for the longevity, it takes intentionality. And that's what we do at M1. And we're proud of what we do.
It's awesome. And I highly encourage, if you want to learn more, go have a conversation with Evan, because you won't regret having a conversation for sure. Even just a singular conversation, you'll walk away with more insights than not, I think. And that's a wrap for today, everybody. So thank you for being here. And remember, technology, systems, mindset, all of this stuff is only good when it works. And don't forget to feel and make choices. And we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for having me.